Thank you, Sujata. I am really delighted to be here today, as I am assuming all of you. Today's luncheon theme really inspires me to think big, no bigger, and to know that we are only limited by our own imaginations. So today I have the honor of serving as your Mistress of Ceremonies. And when I look to the future, I imagine myself in my ideal scene, and I am inspired to work towards my dreams. And when I feel weary, I gather inspiration from those around me. Much like the women I am honored to introduce to you this afternoon. These three women, whose stories are so compelling, are each part of an organization that receives grants from the Chicago Foundation for Women. You may already know that it is estimated that 16,000 to 25,000 women and girls are victims of commercial sexual exploitation in Chicago every year. The numbers globally are staggering. Sexual exploitation of women and girls is increasing around the world, creating an international human rights crisis. That is why the Chicago Foundation for Women is proud to support the work of the Chicago Alliance Against Sexual Exploitation. That organization understands that all forms of sexual exploitation, including sexual assault and the commercial sex trade, are detrimental to a healthy society, and understand that it undermines the dignity of all people. Rachel Durschlag is the executive director of this organization and has been working in the social justice community for more than 8 years. And she is committed to building a global community free from sexual exploitation. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the podium, Rachel.
Hello, I'm Rachel Durschlag. When I started CAASE 5 years ago, it was with the belief that we could significantly decrease the exploitation of women and children in the sex trade in our lifetime. I began my work in Thailand, which is a hub for trafficking, spending time with girls who had been sold into commercial sex trade. As I walked with these survivors, held their hands, and listened to their stories, I couldn't stop thinking, who were the men who purchased sex from these girls? Would these men ever understand the harm that they had caused? When I returned home to Chicago, I discovered the same abuses I had witnessed abroad were happening right here in my city. On any given day, more than 16,000 women and girls are involved in the commercial sex trade in Chicagoland. Many prostituted people experience terrible physical and psychological trauma, often at the hands of the customers or the Johns. There was very little research about demand for the sex trade, and so CFW funded my organization to conduct interviews with 113 men in Chicago. The study revealed many insights, including this statistic. On average, men first bought sex before their 21st birthday. We realized that in order to prevent young men from becoming patrons of the sex trade, we needed to reach them while they were still in high school. And so CAASE created the nation's first curriculum designed specifically to empower young men to stop sexual exploitation. Since March of 2010, we have reached more than 700 students at 8 area schools. We're challenging them to think about what it means to be a real man and reject the idea that it has anything to do with purchasing sex. During 4 sessions, our educator, Caleb Probst, helps young men understand how societal messages, including the media, affect our understanding of the sex trade and how the sex trade harms some of the most vulnerable in our society. Caleb told me about one student in particular, Jose, a shy sophomore in a classroom on the west side of Chicago. While a few vocal students dominated the discussion, arguing that pimps are protecting women, not exploiting them, Jose remained silent. On the final day, Caleb asked the class to share their thoughts about the curriculum. To Caleb's surprise, Jose spoke up. He said, "From now on, I'm changing the way I think about the word pimp. I don't think pimps are cool anymore." It started a domino effect. A few of his peers agreed, and they began talking about how they now saw pimps for what they really were, glamorized human traffickers. The class went on to create a poster campaign in their school using facts and arts to raise awareness about trafficking and prostitution. Through this curriculum, we're doing more than stopping men from buying sex. We're watching them transform into allies in the movement to end violence against all women and girls. CFW has been a generous supporter of CAASE and our End Demand Illinois campaign, which is working to transform our community's response to the sex trade. Just this summer, the campaign passed a new law to help survivors of sex trafficking in Illinois. It's so gratifying that policymakers and law enforcement are beginning to address these issues. But when I see the individual sparks of young men who want to help end sexual exploitation and harm, that really makes me feel inspired by the future. Thank you.